In this video, I constantly fail to beat what many would consider to be the easiest Pokemon game to Nuzlocke. So if you've seen any of my videos before, you're probably aware I've got some experience with Nuzlockes. So you're probably wondering how I lost a FireRed Nuzlocke. Well, I had a brilliant idea to stream myself playing through each generation of Pokemon with a hardcore Nuzlocke rule set. What's a hardcore Nuzlocke rule set, you may ask? Well, under my hardcore Nuzlocke rules, if a Pokemon faints, it's considered dead and must be released. The rest of the rules for this run can be seen on screen now and in the description. Even under these rules, that doesn't sound too hard. However, I decided to add one more rule. I'd be using a level cap based around the gym leader's weakest Pokemon. So combine a lower level cap with being new to streaming and you might see where the problems start to arise. So let's jump in and see how I managed to constantly fail a FireRed hardcore Nuzlocke. So we start by picking our starter and chat votes the Bulbasaur. So Magnusaur is added to our party. So with Magnusaur added to our party, we're ready to begin our adventure, and I'm a little bit confident to say the least. I decided on FireRed because it tends to be a bit of an easier game.
It is a fairly easy game. FireRed should be fairly easy to get through.
I'm sure this won't come back to bite me. Before I'm humbled, we can start collecting our early game encounters, who are all named after people in chat. We catch a Rattata, we name M-Nerd, a Mankey, we name Old Game, a Weedle, we name Axolotl, and a Metapod, we name Luxray, because I can't spell. With our early game encounters collected, we can immediately go and deal with our first gym leader, Brock. And yeah, it goes exactly like you'd expect. Brock fails to land a single hit as Magnusaur takes out both of his Pokemon. Well done, Brock. I had low expectations, and somehow you managed to even fail to meet those. Remember to leave a like for Brock's incompetence and subscribe for more videos in the future. It really helps me out and lets me know you guys are enjoying. Oh, and remember to follow me on Twitter to keep up with my day-to-day. So we've won our first gym badge and we've actually only got one more notable encounter before the next gym, a Jigglypuff. Now you may be questioning why a Jigglypuff is notable, and I'd respond by asking, how can Mikey G not be notable? Those little arms could carry this entire run. With that, it's a quick run through Mount Moon and then we're at our second gym fight of the run, Misty. I'm still extremely overconfident and I'm wondering how to make this run more difficult. Not a massive nerd suggests a level cap based on the gym leader's weakest Pokemon, and little did he know how much trouble this simple suggestion was going to cause me. This level cap presents another issue because it means both Misty and Surge have the same level cap, meaning overleveling is a real possibility. However, I'm nothing if not an idiot, and I decide adding one extra rule isn't enough, so I also implement an additional rule where I'm only allowed to face each gym leader with the same amount of Pokemon as that gym leader. So I've given myself a 5 level disadvantage and limited myself to 2 Pokemon. So let's go see if we've got what it takes to beat Misty. So I decide to bring Luxray and Magnusaur, as Sleep Powder seems like the most surefire way to keep Magnusaur healthy enough to win us the fight. So Misty starts with Staryu and I start with Luxray. I try to get off the Sleep Powder, but Staryu is able to outspeed and land a Water Pulse that of course confuses, preventing Luxray from landing a Sleep Powder. Okay, I've given myself a pretty big disadvantage here, game. You could at least give me some decent luck. So of course, ask and you shall receive, because Luxray then hurts herself in confusion again. Okay, really need to break out of confusion here, and I get lucky, meaning that Staryu is put to sleep. My sleep luck actually does hold up for a good few turns, as Luxray is able to bring the Staryu into the red before Misty heals with the Super Potion. That's annoying, but hope remains alive, because Luxray is able to bring the Starfish down into the yellow again before it finally wakes up and lands another really strong Water Pulse and of course confuses again. Are you kidding me? Thankfully, Luxray breaks through and is able to put the Staryu to sleep again, but this isn't looking good. I decide it's probably worth keeping Luxray alive, so I switch into Magnus as Staryu stays asleep. A single Vine Whip is then able to take down Staryu. One down, but the real problems start here, as my Ivysaur is now going to have to 1v1 the Starmie with no support and a 5 level difference. With such a large level difference, I conclude that my best bet is going for Sleep Powder. So Starmie outspeeds and lands a Swift that does massive damage, and then Magnus misses a Sleep Powder. Okay, this is still doable, but Sleep Powder has to land this turn, so Magnus takes another Swift before missing a second Sleep Powder. That's it, it's all over, as there's nothing I can do to stop Starmie outspeeding and KOing Magnusaur on the following turn. So a combination of bad luck and my additional rules just proved too much for my team that time around, so let's quickly move on with attempt 2. From this point onwards, I decide the party size limit plus the level cap restriction is probably a bit too much, meaning we'll just be sticking to the lower level cap rule and bringing as many Pokemon as we like to gym fights. Attempt 2 time then, and our journey proves to be uneventful up till Misty, just like in Attempt 1. We do have some new faces that join our adventure though: Pixel, the Pidgey, Abo PP, the Ekans, Lavender, the Zubat, and most importantly, Ryan, the Nidoran. Before we know it, we arrive back at Misty, and I'm hoping with 6 Pokemon and leveling Luxray to the level cap, this should go slightly smoother. So Misty starts with Staryu, and I once again start with Luxray Thar. This time around, I decide it's not worth going for sleep powders, so Staryu starts the fight with a useless Harden, and I hit back with a really strong Confusion. Staryu then hits back with a Water Pulse that of course confuses again. Annoying, but not the end of the world, as Luxray is able to break through the Confusion and still land a second strong Confusion. Luxray then has to take one last Water Pulse, bringing him down to below 50% before breaking through the Confusion and landing a critical hit, taking down the Starfish. I love my Butterfly. We're now up against Starmie again, and I decide to take a risk and let Luxray attempt another Sleep Powder. If Sleep Powder lands, then we've got a good chance for Magnusaur to get off some hits while the murderous Starfish naps, and if it doesn't, Luxray goes down and we get Magnusaur in for 3. So I stay in and watch as Water Pulse connects, bringing my Butterfree down to 3 HP. Still got to break through the Confusion though, and Luxray does it, landing a Sleep Powder. This bug has some serious luck. This means I can then switch into Magnus and get off a Leech Seed while the Starfish naps. That's perfect because even though on the following turn Starmie wakes up and lands a strong Swift, 2 Vine Whips and a Leech Seed are enough for the KO. We did it, Misty taken down, meaning we've won our second gym badge. We immediately run into another issue however, the fact that my level cap remains 18 and we have a lot of trainers between us and Surge, including 2 rival fights. But if I can get Ryan into the gym fight with Surge, he should be able to single-handedly take him out thanks to the fact he's just become a Nidoking. I realise this means I'm going to have to try and put my XP into bad low-level Mons as much as possible. This presents the issue of trying to keep Mons like Ekans and Zubat alive, and well, it's going okay up until Camper Ethan, who manages to take down my Snake while I'm speeding up and not paying attention. Rest in peace, Abo PP. We do make it past Nugget Bridge however, with no further issues, meaning once we make it to Route 5, we can catch ourselves another XP sink, Bones the Meowth. We can also catch a Drowsy on Route 11, who I name Haley. It's then time for our rival fight on the SS Anne, and this fight is a lot more difficult than normal thanks to our level disadvantage. And unfortunately, we do have to sacrifice Bones. Bones' sacrifice does allow us the victory, meaning we've made it to Surge, and we've kept Ryan from over-leveling. We should be in the clear here to completely sweep this gym after completing the annoying gym puzzle quicker than I ever have before. That's gotta be a good omen, and I'm full of confidence going into this fight. Being overconfident has never screwed me over before, so let's jump right in. I start with Ryan, and Surge starts with Voltorb, who outspeeds and lands a Screech before going down to a Dig. Pikachu then suffers the same fate. Last is Raichu, so just gotta land a Dig here, and I've won. So eventually I start paying attention, and at this point Raichu is at +6 evasion. This could be an issue. However, Raichu activates Poison Point, so I'm still good, right? Okay, Surge has a full heal, because of course. Still, just need to land one attack here, and we land it. You've got to be kidding. I know there's a level difference, but a stab dig from a Nidoking can't one-shot a Raichu that's not at full health? I hate this game. From there, Surge heals with a Super Potion and proceeds to one by one KO every single one of my Pokemon. So much for an easy gym fight. There was no real way to play around that either without Intimidate and without access to a guaranteed hit move, so it looks like we're moving on to Attempt 3. So Attempt 3 is where my rival Chat comes to blood, as he's able to KO both M-Nerd and Luxray on Nugget Bridge. We then make it to the SS Anne fight, and to say this fight could have gone slightly better is an understatement. Pidgeotto is taken down by Ryan thanks to a Rock Tomb, but this does put Ryan very close to over-leveling, so if I want any success against Surge, gonna have to hope he's not needed for the rest of this fight. Second is Kadabra, who would be scary, but Haley walls this spoon-bending nightmare pretty hard. Third is Raticate, and Haley is able to do good damage with a crit Confusion, but then she does have her defense lowered. A Flinch Hyper Fang on the following turn, then does massive damage, meaning I'm forced to switch. Now comes the first real instance of one of the major problems with this run, the fact that I'm streaming. I'm not giving the game my full attention, meaning that I completely forget about the fact I'm not meant to be sending in Ryan. So I send in Ryan and then quickly realise that this is a massive mistake. I now need to make another switch. Magnusaur takes a Hyper Fang on the switch, but this is fine. As long as this doesn't crit or flinch. Of course it crits. Really need to learn to keep my mouth shut. Rest in peace, Magnusaur. With Magnusaur down, I send out Mikey, who is then KO'd by another Hyper Fang. I really assumed a Diglett with the level advantage would be able to outspeed Eradicate, but apparently not. Rest in peace, Mikey. We're really not looking good here. I can't use Nidoking, and I've still got over half of my rival's team to deal with. I decide I have to take a risk with Jeremy, who luckily survives the Hyper Fang, and then is able to land 3 Fury attacks for the KO. Thank God that killer rat is down. Next, however, is Charmeleon, meaning I'm gonna have to let Jeremy do as much damage as he can before letting another one of my Pokemon fall. So Jeremy gets off a weak Fury attack before going down to a Metal Claw. Rest in peace, my little bird. You weren't around long, but you tried your best. This is looking really bad, but if Pixel and Haley can take down Charmeleon without Ryan, this run will stay alive. So I send in Pixel, who takes a weak Ember before getting off a weak Gust. This is okay though, because Pixel will probably bring the Charmeleon low enough to where Haley can get the KO, or not. That crit sealed this run's fate. Haley is able to survive a Metal Claw on the following turn and land a crit Confusion, but it's just not enough to KO, meaning I have to send out Ryan. Ryan is able to KO the Charmeleon even after missing a Rock Tomb and getting burned, but he does over level, meaning unfortunately attempt 3 is pretty much over. It's not shocking that an Oddish, a Zubat and a Meowth aren't enough to take down Surge. So on to attempt 4, and we make it back to the SSN with no issues. Okay, there were some slight issues, as Max the Zubat dies to the dreaded curse of Speed Up, and Mikey the Oddish dies to a crit Confusion from Slowpoke. But other than those issues, we didn't have any issues, so we make it back to our rival, who this time decides to only get 1 crit and KO Mnerd the Rattata, but apart from that, we don't have any other problems, meaning we make it through and we're finally back at Surge, and this time I have a bit more of the plan, kinda. So I start with Ryan, and Ryan is once again able to take down Surge's first 2 Pokemon with no issues. Then Raichu comes out and immediately starts going for double teams. Raichu is able to get off 2 double teams before a dig connects but doesn't KO. Ryan also gets paralyzed, meaning landing another dig just got even more difficult. I know Surge will heal on the next turn, however, so I decide to implement Chat's plan. Chat was insistent I grab the secret power TM before the fight, so Bones would be able to come in and help with a really strong attack. I'm never listening to Chat again. Rest in peace, Mako. Technically, I didn't get you killed, Chat did. Time for plan B. With Raichu setting up, I decide my best bet is relying on Poison Point. Ryan has the ability Poison Point, meaning that every time Raichu makes contact with him, there's a 30% chance for the overgrown mouse to get poisoned. Poison will completely negate Raichu's double teams, as I actually won't need to hit it. Obviously, Surge has a full heal, so I need Raichu to be poisoned twice. While a 30% chance isn't terrible, there's every possibility that Ryan will go down before Raichu is poisoned twice. That's where Abo comes in, because thanks to Intimidate, I'm able to get the Raichu down to -6 attack. With Raichu at -6, its quick attacks are only doing 4 damage into Ryan, meaning that eventually the electric fat rat poisons itself twice and goes down to poison damage. That was so much more difficult than it should have been, but we've defeated Surge and gotten our 3rd gym badge. Moving on then, we're now at the point where the game really opens up, and that means more encounters. Firstly, on Route 10, we find our first electric type of the run, a Voltorb I name Michael. I then have 2 very close calls with Ryan dying to crits, but thankfully he survives, meaning we can grab a Mankey from Rock Tunnel we name Grass. Once we've caught our monkey and escaped the critting Cave of Death, we can get 2 more very important encounters. Firstly, we can go and catch a Growlithe we name Jose. Secondly, we pick up a 3 Eevee we can get in Cerulean City we name Joe. Thanks to having access access to evolution stones, we can immediately evolve Jose into Arcanine and Joe into Vaporeon, meaning we've added 2 super strong Pokemon to our roster. With all of those encounters out the way, we're ready for our 4th gym fight, a Grass-type leader, Erica. Even with a lower level cap, I'd be absolutely shocked if Erica gave me any trouble, so let's jump right in. Erica starts with the Victory Bell, and I start with my big beat bird, Mazar. I'm expecting a pretty easy sweep here, so I start with a fly that should be an easy one-shot. This run really hates me. Thankfully, Mazar only has to take a poison powder, but still, really game, a fly then connects, but fails to KO the Venus Flytrap. An acid from Victory Bell doesn't do too much however, and then a second fly picks up the KO on the following turn. Second is Tangela, and poison has left my bird a bit low, so I decide to switch into Jose. On the switch, Tangela just goes for an Ingrain. Perfect. From this point, it actually is just a straight sweep, as Jose is able to one-shot the Tangela with the Flamethrower, and then the Vileplume suffers the same fate. Easy. Needed a break with an easy gym fight, even if we did get unlucky with a 5% miss. 4th gym badge acquired. To gain access to the rest of Kanto then, I have to deal with Giovanni and the Pokemon Tower. Giovanni can mostly just be swept by Joe, but Kangaskhan is a slightly bigger issue. Joe is on full HP, so I'm hoping he can handle this though, so I stay in and take a strong Mega Punch before landing a Water Pulse that does about the same amount of damage. A bite from Kangaskhan, of course, then flinches, but luckily it doesn't do much damage. Kangaskhan then misses a Mega Punch, letting Joe land a second Water Pulse to bring the beast down to 50%. Kangaskhan then gets off Aaliyah before being brought into the red by one more hit. Now though, I'm kind of worried about a crit, because with the defense drop, I'm not sure if Joe will survive, so I decide to play it safe and switch into Ryan, who takes a Mega Punch on the switch. Now to outspeed and KO. Oh well, looks like I didn't outspeed, but that's fine as long as I don't say the magic words. Can you imagine if I now get crit? I had to say it again, didn't I? Rest in peace, Ryan. I hate crits. With Ryan down, I am able to send in Michael, who easily outspeeds and KOs with a Thunderbolt. Probably should have just immediately switched into Michael there, as there's no way that Michael would have been outsped like Ryan, but that's hindsight for you. With the Sylph Scope acquired, I'm able to grab the Pokemon Flute, which means we get a lot more strong encounters. Firstly, we catch a Ghastly in the Pokemon Tower, who we name Jewel. Jewel has some very important niche uses, one of which is to help us catch our next encounter, a Snorlax. Snorlax is obviously one of the best Pokemon in this game, but it can be slightly risky to catch. However, Snorlax can't hurt Jewel, meaning I can freely catch Snorlax while not putting any of my Pokemon at risk. Welcome to the team, Phil. With Phil acquired, we can head south and catch another strong encounter, a Doduo we name Empress. Doduo is by far the strongest bird we can get during this run, so I'm excited to add Empress to my party. We then got one last encounter to get in the Safari Zone, and my Safari Zone rules are that I can keep the first Pokemon I catch, and there's a lot of really strong Pokemon here, so let's see who we're getting. Rhyhorn, that'll be, oh, okay. Execute is a pretty strong site, right? That's fine, we just have to, oh, for fuck's sake, yes, that's right, we get Dumb the Paras, who will sit in the box and never be seen again. Moving on from that disappointment then, we have another problem to deal with. The fact that the level cap for both Koga and Sabrina is 37, meaning I have to be really careful to not over level here. That means I decide to handle Giovanni and the Silphco arc before Koga, so I can go straight from Koga to Sabrina without any battles in between. This means we have to face off against Giovanni again, and this time I decide to let Grassy go down to the Kangaskhan to guarantee our other Pokemon get through this fight safely. Rest in peace, Grassy. Your sacrifice protected everyone else. With Giovanni down then, we have 2 gym leaders to deal with, the first of which is Koga. This is where Jewel comes in handy, as he completely walls Koga's team. I've also taught him the TM Psychic, meaning he's able to completely rip through Koga's team with no problems. 5th gym taken down. I do decide to take a quick detour before battling Sabrina and catch a Magnemite I name Coltrane. Steel typing is super broken in this generation, and Coltrane is the only steel type I get access to, so he'll be a very useful addition. Now we've got to deal with Sabrina. Sabrina's AI is awful, but that doesn't take away from the fact that her Alakazam is super threatening listening, so fingers crossed this goes well. Sabrina starts with Kadabra, and I start with Empress. Empress is able to outspeed, and a single tri-attack is able to one-shot. Good start. Second is Mr. Mime, and another tri-attack fails to KO as Mr. Mime survives on 1 HP. Annoying, but Mr. Mime just goes through a barrier that increases its defense. This means 2 more tri-attacks are able to KO. Third is Venomoth, who to no one's surprise goes down to a single fly. Last then is Alakazam, and I've got a pretty good chance here of taking down this monster with Empress. However, I do have a backup plan of Phil with Shadow Ball, so we should be okay here. So Alakazam starts by going through a future sight as it sees that as doing more damage. This allows Empress to get off a strong attack that unfortunately doesn't KO. It does force Sabrina to heal on the next turn, however, allowing Empress to get off another tri-attack that doesn't KO but does 3s. That's huge, as Empress can then KO with one last tri-attack. We've done it. That's the 6th gym leader taken down, and we didn't even take any damage. It's then a quick trip to Cinnabar Island to face everybody's favourite crazy old man, gym leader Blaine. Now Blaine normally could be completely swept away with a strong water type, but because I now have a 10 level disadvantage, I do have to be slightly careful here. So Blaine starts with Growlithe, while I start with Empress. Thanks to the Intimidate dropping Empress's attack, a single tri-attack doesn't get the one-shot, allowing Growlithe to hit back with a Fire Blast that actually does a lot. 2 more tri-attacks then take down the pup as Blaine heals on the following turn. Ponyta is second, so I switch into Phil on the world's weakest Fire Blast. Gotta love thick fat. A single strength is then enough for the KO. Third is Rampadash, who gets off a Fire Blast and a Fire Spin before going down to 2 strengths. That just leaves Arcanine, and I decide to put this monster to sleep as it misses a takedown. I then protect for a turn, meaning the fluffy puppy falls asleep. It's then a simple case of switching into Joe. Oh, forgot gym leaders have those. Well, that's fine, just have to take a strong takedown, very nearly one-shot with the Surf, bring the Fire Pup back into the red with the second Surf as Blaine heals, and then KO with the Surf. After being brought to 11 HP by a crit, game please stop. We've won, but I'm struggling to deal with the stress at this point. The end is in sight though, 1 more gym to go. That means it's time for our 3rd battle with Giovanni, and luckily a lot of his Pokemon still go down to a single hit. Just gotta be careful playing around the Nidoqueen and King, because both of them have Earthquake. Let's hope for a bit of luck here. Rhyhorn and Dugtrio both go down to a single attack each, and then the Queen comes out. Switching through Empress means Joe doesn't have to take an Earthquake on the switch, and then a single Surf is enough for the KO. Second is Nidoking, and I decide to risk a crit by letting Joe take an Earthquake, and there's no way I'm unlucky enough to get crit again, right? See, told you. A Surf is then enough for the KO. Last is Giovanni's level 50 Rhyhorn, but even with an 8 level difference, this thing sucks, so it goes down to a single Surf. Okay, had to risk 1 crit there, but pretty easy final gym fight. Almost at the end here, that's our 8th and last gym badge acquired. That means it's just a quick run through Victory Road, so let's see who we're bringing. Coltrane the Magneton, Joe the Vaporeon, Empress the Dodrio, Phil with Snorlax, Gemma the Lapras, who I remembered to grab from the Silphco building, and last but definitely not least, Magnusaur the Venusaur. We're going to have a 10 level disadvantage by the time we get to the champion, so this is not going to be easy. Let's go see if we can finally go in this and beat this Nuzlocke. So first up is Lorelei, and Coltrane is able to take down Dewgong, Cloyster and Slowbro with a single Thunderbolt each. Then the Lapras comes out, and you know how every time I open my mouth something bad happens? Well, if it's people are liking it. But yeah, it was a lot of fun to do, so. And I do like the fact I'm one-shotting everything so far. That's a good start. I like how I say that and then I immediately don't. Watch this crit and just KO. I hate this game. I really need to learn when to shut up. Rest in peace, Coltrane. Your death actually broke me. Phil is able to come in and finish off Lorelei's remaining team members, but I'd be lying if I said losing Coltrane this early didn't hurt my confidence. No choice though but to carry on. Second for this Elite Four is Bruno, and for some strange reason he has 2 Onyxes, so this shouldn't be too difficult. First Onyx goes down to a single Surf. Second is Hitmonchan. Hitmonchan immediately gets off a Sky Uppercut that doesn't do a huge huge amount, as a Surf brings it to below half. A second Sky Uppercut then brings Joe to about a third, before a second Surf just misses the KO by what looks like 1 HP. That's fine though, because I now know Bruno will heal, so I get a 3 switch into Empress, who one-shots with a Drill Peck. Third is Machamp, the only Pokemon on Bruno's team who I'm actually slightly worried about. I'm still hopeful Empress will one-shot here though, so I go through a Drill Peck that again just misses the KO. That could be really bad if Machamp hits back hard here, but instead it just goes through a Scary Face. The Scary Face does create a problem though, because now I'm not sure if I still outspeed. I decide it's best to switch, and my only real choice here is Magnesaur. On the switch, Magnesaur has to take a resisted cross chop. A Giga Drain then brings down Machamp. You have no idea how glad I am that thing is gone. Fourth, Bruno is Hitmonlee, so after taking a strong Mega Kick, Magnesaur is able to do low damage with a Giga Drain. Unfortunately, I'm now in a position where I'm going to have to risk a crit, as all of my other Pokemon can't really safely switch in here. So I stay in, and Magnesaur survives, thank god. Even with Overgrow though, a second Giga Drain fails to KO, meaning I'm going to have to risk Empress here, and luckily Bruno goes for a full restore. I had no idea how many healing items Bruno had, so that switch was really scary. With Empress now in, however, I can KO with a single Drill Peck, and then KO the Onix with 3 Steel Wings, because it doesn't know any rock type moves. That was the toughest Bruno fight I've ever done, but we made it through. Third for this Elite Four is Agatha, who is probably the most threatening member of this Elite Four, so fingers crossed this goes well. Agatha starts with Gengar, and I start with Phil. I'm hoping to end this fast with a Shadow Ball before Agatha can get off too many double teams, but even if she does get off too many double teams, I have Empress in the back with Aerial Ace. So I start going for Shadow Balls, and Agatha starts setting up double teams. I probably try too many times to connect with the Shadow Ball here, which allows Gengar to land a Toxic, which is really annoying. I do eventually hit a Shadow Ball though, which shockingly doesn't KO. There's not even a level difference here. Oh well, I now have the 3 switch into Empress, thanks to Agatha using a Full Restore, who KOs with 2 Aerial Aces. Should have just done that from the start, to be honest. Second is Golbat, who is brought down to half with the Tri-Attack. Empress is then able to KO with the Drill Peck after taking an Air Cutter. Third is Arbok, so I switch into Magnesaur. On the switch, Magnesaur actually takes a lot more from a Sludge Bomb than I was hoping. A second Sludge Bomb brings Magnesaur really low, but he survives and is able to land an Earthquake that does over 50%. I can't take another hit here, however, to finish off the snake, so I'm forced to switch. I decide on Gemma, who I'm hoping can take a hit here decently well. Then, much to my surprise, on the switch, Agatha hard switches into Haunter. Not sure why she did that there, but not going to complain. Haunter then gets off a Mean Look, as Gemma goes for a really strong Surf that nearly one-shots. Mean Look is super scary though, because I don't like not being able to switch, especially because on the next turn, Haunter lands a Hypnosis. This could be really bad. Haunter then starts going for Dream Eaters, which at the very least aren't doing a lot of damage. Do really need Gemma to wake up here, and I get super lucky as Gemma wakes up on the next turn and KOs with a Surf. Maybe my luck's turning around. Arbok then comes back out, but it's still on 50% HP, so a single Surf from Gemma after taking a Sludge Bomb KOs. Then all that's left for Agatha is her second Gengar, and my team's really beat up at this point, so gonna have to hope Joe and Phil can pull off a win here. So of course, as I switch into Joe, I immediately take another Hypnosis. Really should have equipped Chesto Berries. I decide I should probably just switch into Phil, who is already poisoned, so it's not like he can be put to sleep. On the switch, a Sludge Bomb unfortunately does a lot. A second Sludge Bomb on the following turn brings Phil really low, and then a Shadow Ball fails to one-shot. Gonna need to switch back into Joe here and pray that he wakes up fast. So I switch and take a Sludge Bomb before Gengar gets off a Nightmare as Joe naps. Waking up right now is vital, or I might lose this run, and Joe wakes up before taking a Sludge Bomb and is able to KO with a single Surf. That was way too close, but we did it. 2 more fights to go, and we've won. Up next is Lance, the Dragon Master, or the Flying type trainer if you're going to be realistic, and I'm hoping this fight will be less stressful than the last few. So Lance starts with Gyarados, and I start with Gemma. Unfortunately, without Coltrane, I've lost my direct Gyarados counter, but for some reason, Gemma can still learn Thunderbolt, so after taking a Dragon Rage, a single Thunderbolt is able to KO. Easy. Second is Aerodactyl, and I don't want Gemma taking an Ancient Power here, so I switch into Joe. Joe does have to take 2 Ancient Powers, but then a single Surf is enough for the KO. Or not. Let's try that again. A single Surf is enough for the KO. Third is Dragonair, who wastes its life setting up a Safeguard before very nearly going down to a single Ice Beam. Joe then has to take a Hyper Beam that does a huge amount, but one more Ice Beam is then enough for the KO. Then the second Dragonair comes out, and I take a bit of a stupid risk and stay in with Joe. That was way too close. Joe is a trooper though and survives, meaning after bringing the Dragonair into the red, I can switch into Phil. Lance then fully heals, but that just means Phil has to take a Hyper Beam before KOing with 2 strengths. That's it, Lance is down to his last Pokemon, Dragonite. I stall for a turn with Protect to get some of my HP back before taking a massive amount from a wing attack. Phil tanks the hit though, meaning I get off a Yawn. Oh yeah, forgot about that, never mind. I then switch into Gemma, hoping to finish off the Dragonite quickly with a single Ice Beam, and on the switch, Gemma takes a massive Hyper Beam. Hyper Beam is actually perfect though, because now Dragonite has to recharge, meaning a single Ice Beam takes down the Dragonite. We've done it, the Elite Four is down, meaning we've got one more challenge to face, and this run is finally over. Let's go end this. Unfortunately, you can tell the pressure of doing this live is really getting to me at this point, because while chat starts off with Pidgeot, I start off with Empress. I had it in my head Empress would be able to 2-shot and would be perfect because the enemy giant bird would probably go for a sand attack, which thanks to Aerial Ace is useless. But unfortunately, my plan falls apart as Drill Peck does less than I'm expecting, and then Empress's attack is lowered by a Feather Dance. Realizing my plan won't work, I switch into Gemma on a sand attack. Thankfully, after taking a weak Aerial Ace, Gemma is able to land an Ice Beam for the KO on the following turn. Second is Rhydon, and I'm sure Lapras could outspeed him one shot here, but I can't risk the miss, so I switch into Joe on a Rock Tomb. Of course, Rock Tomb then lowers Joe's speed, meaning he has to take a really strong Earthquake on the following turn before KOing with the Surf. Third is Executor, and here's where my lack of preparation really screws me over. I switch into Empress on a Giga Drain, which doesn't do too much, and then Empress fails to KO with a single Drill Peck. A Sleep Powder then connects. If I prepared correctly, a Chesto Berry here would have probably prevented what happens next, but unfortunately I didn't equip one. Empress stays asleep on the following turn and takes a huge amount from an Egg Bomb, and then I pray that my bird will wake up on the following turn, but she doesn't and goes down to a second Egg Bomb. Rest in peace my three-headed bird. With Empress down, I make another misplay and send out Magnusaur. Unfortunately, in my panic, I completely overlook the fact that Magnusaur has no moves that can really hurt this thing. That means I've just wasted my 3 switch. I decide to try and course correct by sending in Phil, and much to my annoyance, Phil gets put to sleep on the switch. I actually forgot Sleep Powder worked on grass types this generation, and I wasn't expecting Executor to go for it there. Of course, all these mistakes have started adding up, and I've pretty much thrown the run at this point. Snorlax sleeps for 5 turns and is KO'd by Executor, and despite the fact that Gemma is able to finish off this overgrown plant in revenge, I've now lost way too many Pokemon to deal with the rest of Blue's team, meaning my team is slowly KO'd one by one. Rest in peace, guys. The pressure of streaming really got to me there at the end. Something about having people watch me live just led to panic and led to screw up after screw up after screw up. Despite this though, I've really enjoyed streaming and making this video, so I hope you guys have enjoyed watching. If you want more content like this in the future, remember to leave a like and subscribe so you never miss a video, and so you can catch my live streams right here on this channel. Thanks again for watching. I do really appreciate all the support. I'll see you guys next time.